Yeah, hello and welcome to this After Effects tutorial from mamoworld.com. My name is Matthias, and in this tutorial I show you how you can use the expression timeline. In total, I'm going to show you 3 different examples of what you can do with the timeline, and don't be scared. Although it's all about expressions, it's very easy and you don't need to know how to write expressions to follow the tutorial. If you have used expressions in After Effects so far, you might have noticed that one big drawback is that once you activated an expression, it's active for the entire duration of the comp. If you consider, for example, a wiggle expression, it wiggles from the beginning to the end of the composition. With the expression timeline, you can now modify arbitrary expressions such that they are only active for a certain amount of time. You can, for example, have a wiggle that starts at frame 100 and ends at frame 300. What makes it even more powerful is that you can fade in and out your expressions such that they start and stop smoothly. You can even transition from one expression to the next one and combine them in arbitrary fashions. But now let's take a quick look at the 3 examples. In the first example, we are going to use a move on a grid expression from Dan Abbott's and combine it with another one that makes a trailing movement. In the second example, we look at the Ease and Wizz script and combine various of its expressions to get a cool kind of keyframe animation. Finally, in the third example, we get a confetti-like movement by a combination of various expressions. But now let's start with the first part and the random grid movement. Okay, so here we are now in After Effects, and in total I'm going to show you 3 different examples for which I have prepared here already some compositions. And in the first example, so the only thing I prepared is that I've got here this text expression timeline, and you can see that each of the letters is actually a separate layer. So this is something I already prepared. And then we have here this arrow that is just keyframed to animate in. And what we want to do is that we also want to have a cool fading in of this text here, and for this we want to use an expression from the cool website MotionScript. So this is motionscript.com, and it has several really cool expressions on it. And the Expressions Lab is a part of this website that really shows you basically a big collection of very useful expressions that you in particular can just use in a cut and paste style. So you don't need to understand the source code or so, but you just copy and paste them and they work as expected. So random grid movement is one of them, and it makes layers move like this here. Yeah? And the only thing you have to do for this is to take this really ugly, complicated expression and apply it to the position of your layers. So we can select it, Ctrl C to copy, and then I, for example, go here to the first letter, Alt click on the position, Alt click, so it's Alt or Option key selected, and then you can type in here your expression. I'm going to delete this expression and enlarge this window here a little bit such that you can see it, and now I just paste here this long expression from the website. And what it does, well, now let's take a look at a quick RAM preview. Now this first letter makes this strange kind of movement, and for one letter it does not look yet very interesting, but now we could do something like go here to the position and say copy expression only, and then we select all these other layers here, hit P to reveal the position property, and select all these positions and paste. Where is paste? So let's go here, edit, paste. And now you can see, if we do a quick RAM preview, now you can see that the expression is working very nice, but the thing that we want to change now is that it should not be active over the entire composition, but just at the beginning, and then we want to have kind of a fade to the keyframe position. And this is something we can really easily do with the expression timeline. So I open the timeline script, and what the timeline does is basically just it gives you here kind of a timeline, yeah, like the timeline you have here, except that it consists of these boxes, and currently there's only one such box, and it says keyframes. So from frame 0 to frame infinity, so until the end of the composition, currently the keyframes are active. And now I can say I replace these keyframes by an expression by clicking there, and then we can insert there, for example, this really complicated expression here from the website. So I copy it and paste it here. And you can, of course, also paste there any other kind of expression. And now I say it should not go until frame infinity, but only until frame 100. Yeah? Hit return. And now you can see that another box appeared. So the script is asking you, basically the timeline is asking, what do you want to do then after frame 100? So from 0 to 100, this expression is active, and after that it suggests again keyframes. And again, you could insert here another expression, but first let's use this expression. So I select again here all the positions. And now in the timeline I hit here on apply, which means apply this timeline, so the combination of expressions and this keyframe, to all those layers, to their position property. I hit apply, so it computes a little while. And now let's look at a quick RAM preview. So now you can see that first this expression is active, and then at frame 100 it is not active anymore. Yeah? At frame 100 the keyframes again become active. So exactly at this position here the transition happens. And the only problem is that this transition is very abrupt. Yeah? So from one frame to the next, the expression is deactivated. And you can change this by going here to frame 100 in your expression timeline and saying add fade. So this means like we want to have a smooth transition between the keyframe, between the expressions here and the keyframe there. And so the fade duration is here by default 10, and let's make it 50 to make it a little bit more visible, so to make this fade a little bit longer. And again, let's select here all positions, and now let's apply this expression timeline to our positions. And if you now look at it, you can see that again you have at the beginning these expressions and at the end the keyframes, but you have this cool transition between the two. And you can really, with a timeline, transition between any kinds of expressions. So between expressions and keyframes, and also from one expression to another one. And now the really cool and powerful thing is that you can make these expressions in the timeline here arbitrarily more complicated. So you could, for example, add here another expression, let's say a wiggle expression, and then starting from frame 100 it would not just follow the keyframes, but all the letters would wiggle a bit. And I also want to show here you another example, and for this I have prepared here a layer called cycle movement. Let's just move it to the top, and what it actually does is just to move in a circle. Yeah, you can do this, you can keyframe this, or in my case I added here to the position of this layer a simple expression that says move according to these values. So I mean in principle it does not matter, but so let's make this layer here visible and solo it for a moment. So if I scrub through the timeline, you can see that it's just moving in a circle. Yeah, very easy idea. And what we want to do is that we want all the other layers to follow this one layer. And for this, we want to use another expression from Dan Abbott's here. And this is also found on his website in the chapter Mastering Expressions. And in the mastering expressions, there are also many examples, so it makes really sense to look at them. You find many interesting things. And again, you can also use them by simple copy and paste. And one thing is here creating trails. So it makes layers follow this first layer. And the first layer, if you just use this expression here, it makes any layer that you apply this to, this expression to follow the first layer in your composition. So again, I just copy it, and now I say, okay, again, here in our timeline, this is our first expressions, then we have keyframes, and now we want to say, okay, the keyframes should not be from 100 to infinity, but only from 100 to, let's say, frame 150, And now I can see our timeline is getting larger, so you can enlarge it here. And also you see that here a scroll bar appears, yeah? So your timeline, your expression timeline can really become arbitrarily large. You can combine as many expressions as you like. We want to have here, starting at frame 150, another expression, namely the one we just took here from the website. So this trail expression here. And let's say this should just go from 150 to 200. Yeah, like this. And then again, let's say we want to add here a fade, that it does not start abruptly to follow, but step by step. So here, for this expression at the beginning, we had a fade of, let's say, 20 frames, so a little bit shorter, and also at the end, we add a fade like this, 20. So now we have a pretty advanced expression timeline here. So first our moving according to the grid, then a period from frame 100 to 150 of keyframes, and then here's this second trail expression thing, and after that again our keyframes. And so again we select from all these text layers here the position property, and now hit apply. And by the way, here in the timeline you can also change this width here. So here you have the range that you can scroll in, and if you enlarge this here, let's say 700, you can see that it becomes larger, and you can enlarge your window and do not have to scroll that much. Yeah, so it's up to you to choose this width here. Let's go back to 500 and make this here a little bit larger. And now let's again desolo our circle movement layer, because it's just a null that makes all the rest follow it. To see how this is now looking like, and to make it a little bit more cool, maybe we also enable here motion blur for these layers. So let's just select them all and enable motion blur. And then let's look at a ramp preview of this. So you can see that first the first expression is active, then it slowly fades to the keyframe position, and then the second expression becomes active that makes each layer follow this cycling leader. Okay, so this was the first example, and now let's go to the second one. And for this we click here on clear all to empty the expression timeline, so it removes all expressions from the timeline. And by the way, so you can always clear this here and anyway later go back to the expressions that you created. So for example, I can select here this position property and click on load, and now the entire timeline for this property is again loaded. So the expression timeline is no one-way street. You always have the possibility to edit your timeline expressions later. So with that said, we clear the timeline and go to the second example, ease and Wizz. And in this example you can see it's pretty much the same composition, except that I have here just one text layer and not a separate one for each entry. And from the animation here, it's such that I already keyframed the movement of this text. And now I want to move or modify this movement with the ease and Wizz script. So this is something you can also download from AE Scripts, and it's not a script of mine, but from Ian Hyde. So a very cool thing, and it works as follows. You can modify this movement here by saying I want, for example, to have a bouncing movement, and there are all these options. Bouncing is one of them. So I just select the position and hit apply, and what you now get, if you look at it here, is a bouncing movement. Yeah, at every keyframe they have here this kind of bouncing behavior, and I think the bouncing looks cool here for the first part, but for the second part I want to have something else. Namely, I want to have here this expo, which means an exponential animation. So let's apply this expo to see this. And you can see this is more like as if the logo here would suck in the expression timeline text. Yeah, so also a very cool kind of movement. And with ease and Wizz, you can choose either the one kind of movement or the other one, but what you cannot automatically do is to combine them. Yeah, this is something you cannot do directly with ease and Wizz, but with the help of the expression timeline, this is easily possible. Yeah, and how do we do it? Well, we take first this exponential movement here. So I go here to the expression. You can see that ease and Wizz created here an expression to get this behavior. Yeah, ease and Wizz in expo all keyframes. I Control C to copy it. And then I go here to the timeline, say add expression, and add this ease and Wizz expression. Yeah, I mean, this is now an expression generated by a script. No problem. Any kinds of expressions work in the timeline. Now we say, okay, this exponential behavior we just want to have for the second part. Yeah, so let's say here, starting here in the middle between the first part of the animation and the second one at frame 25. So only at frame 25, and later this in expo animation should be active. And before that, we want to have this other behavior. So to get this this bouncing behavior, we again select our position, go to ease and Wizz, and say, okay, we want to have the bouncing, and apply it. We can see that here now the expression changed in ease and Wizz in bounce. So again, I hit Control A to select all the expression, and Control C to copy it. Now we go to the timeline and add here before frame 25 the expression for the bouncing. So from frame 0 to 25, ease and ease in bouncing, and from 25 to infinity, ease and Wizz in expo. Now I just have to apply this construct, so select the position and hit apply. And now you can see that we have first the bouncing, and for the second part, this sucking behavior. I mean, it's not sucking. I guess you know what I mean. So there's this cool combination of these two kinds of movements. So another nice example of what you can do with the timeline to make it again look a little bit more nice. Again, we can add here motion blur. And so this is the final result. But now let's take a look at the third example. Okay, so for this third example, we again use an expression from Dan Abbott's, in this case also on its website MotionScript in the paragraph Expressions Lab. And in Expressions Lab you find the expression Confetti, and it makes layers move like this. And we want to apply it in a similar style as in the first example, so use it to fade in our text in a cool way. And I chose this example to show you that you can really push the expression timeline until the limits of the possibilities of expressions without it not working anymore. So it's really working with all kinds of expressions, and in this case here you have even something that involves more than one expression. Yeah, so this effect here of the confetti involves 1, 2, 3, 4 different expressions on 4 different kinds of properties, and also involves certain effects. So let's just quickly look at what we have to do here. Again, it's just cut and paste stuff basically. So create a small solid layer. This is this particle, which in our case corresponds to the letters. Make it 3D, apply a point control to the layer, and apply this here to this point control. Okay, so we copy here already, Control C, this first expression, and go to this confetti composition that I've already prepared. So it's basically the same as the first one. Again, here this arrow is animating in, and then we have here the letters for the different, or the layers for the different letters. And so first I need to add this point control. So I select the first letter, go to Effect, Expression Controls, Point Control, and to this point control I reveal it here, point control, point, I alt click on it and add the expression that I've copied from the website. Yeah, so here is now my expression from the website. And one aspect of these expressions that is worth looking at is some of them have at the beginning this kind of parameters that you can modify. Here it says life equals 1.2. This is the life of a particle, how long our particles should live. This means how long does it take for such a particle to travel from the top to the bottom, and I figured out in this example that it works better to, so it takes longer for our particles to go to the end of the composition, to the bottom, because our composition is larger. So I changed this here from 1.2 to just 6 seconds. Then I take this point control effect, do edit copy, and then I select all the other letters and go to edit paste. So now we have the expression and the effect in all of them, but nothing is happening yet. Yeah, and this is because the other expressions are missing. So here's the second expression. Add this expression to the position property. So we are going to do that. Copy. And now, we want the position not to move all the time. But again, we want to have this fading. So we use the expression timeline. We clear all, add here our expression for the position, insert it and say, okay, it should only be active until frame 100. And we also want to add a fade that it slowly stops. So like 20 frames in this case. And now I hit P. In this window I hit P to reveal the position. And also for this first one here, I want to have the position. So I select the positions of all of these layers and then apply the expression timeline. Apply. So you can see at the beginning, all of the letters are hiding here in the upper left corner. And then they start slowly falling down here as if they would be confetti. And then after a while, we also have them zooming in or moving into their position. This is this fade of 20 frames that is happening here. Also very very nice, but it's not yet looking very realistic. And the parts that are missing are here these additional expressions for the orientation and the Z rotation. So let's copy the orientation thing and replace this position expression here in the timeline just by add Control V, paste in here now the one for the orientation. For the orientation, I've seen that it looks a little bit cooler if we fade it a little bit longer. So anyway, we go now here to the text field, type orientation. Where are my layers gone? Select those layers, hit orientation. Of course, orientation does not exist as long as your layers are 2D. So we need to create 3D layers out of them. And now we can type orientation and select all their orientations and hit apply. And now you can see that they fall down much more realistically, so they are rotating or they are changing their orientation all the time, bouncing like this. So this is looking really nice. And again, we have also this zoom in that starts now, so this fade. And you can see that the fade takes a little bit longer than for the position. And by that, the orientation is in correct place a little bit later than the position. You can see here in basically here everything is already in place, so the position fade is already finished, but still the orientation is still fading into the correct position. Makes a very nice effect. Let's just look at it again because it's looking so cool. Okay, and now the only expression that is missing is to make it even cooler, the movement. You can apply another expression, this one here, to the Z rotation property. So again, I delete here this first expression, paste in the new one for Z rotation, reveal here Z, the rotation. I'm not really sure why the orientation remains open here. Anyway, so we select all the Z rotations separately, like this. Okay, and hit apply. And now we also have the Z rotation controlled by the timeline. Now the computation takes a little bit longer, but you can see now they are moving even nicer and rotating a little bit with this Z rotation. A minor problem that you maybe also noticed is that the letters that are not yet in use are visible here a little bit. Yeah, this is just how the expression is written, that it stores basically all the letters here as long as they are not yet used. I mean, you can easily fix that by either adding here a little green solid layer, or by nesting this composition, or by preparing this here in a little bit larger composition, yeah, that you then later nest into a shorter one where this part gets cut off. So this is an easy fix you can do on yourself. So let's just take a look at the final result with motion blur turned on. Looks really nice. So I hope that you benefited from this tutorial, and I could convince you that with the expression timeline you can really easily use a lot of expressions in a cut and paste style and combine them in whatever way you like. So this is Matthias for mamoworld.com, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial.